Let's have some fun.
G'day. I've got these new oars that a friend of mine wants aging to make them look like they're well used. So I thought I'd do a quick video. They never end up being quick. But anyway, I'll try and keep it short. And I'm going to show how to age these rather. It's quite a simple process. I'll need to remove the varnish which is on them. There's a gloss varnish that's going to need stripping off. Horrible job, but definitely needs coming off, you know, to get the process to work. And then apply the aging solution, which is actually just watered down black paint. There's many ways of aging wood out there, and using vinegars and various acids and alkaline mixtures and everything, but the best way and the easiest way I've found is actually using diluted black paint, and hopefully I'm going to show you how that's done. I'm just applying the paint stripper on it at the moment. Should be wearing a mask, but if I did I couldn't speak to you. I'm putting it on generously, quite thick, just dabbing it. Don't overwork it, but you must get it obviously to cover all areas. I'm hoping that I can just do one coat of this, and if there's any residue of old varnish, I'll sand it off rather. It's important that you remove the varnish before you start the aging process. And what I mean by that is it's not just going to be aged using the diluted black paint, but I'm going to rough them up a bit. And you want to make sure that all the varnish is off before you rough them up a bit and get the dents and the nooks and the crannies. Otherwise it makes it difficult to get the varnish out of those nooks and crannies, and depending on how old you want them looking, these are to look really quite old, so we won't want any varnish on them at all to be sitting in those hollows. I'll do one side of them, strip it all off, then I'll flip it over and do the other side. Just a quick tip, let's get in shot, shall I? Just a quick tip on how to get a cheap paint scraper that's really effective. So I just buy these $2 scrapers from the hardware store, and the way they come, they're not sharp obviously, and for certain jobs that's how you want them. But I find for paint stripping, for non-precious woods, let's put it that way, so these are pine, they're going to be aged, they're going to be knocked around, so it doesn't really matter how harsh I am with them. So I get a paint scraper that originally actually looked like this, but over the years I've sharpened the edge down, so I put a sharp edge on that just with a file or on my sander, and then a bit of fine sandpaper like this, rub it against that like that, and you get this nice sharp edge. And so I've just applied here a coat of stripper here, and you'll notice I've got my mask now. I wasn't wearing it before because I didn't think I could talk behind it, but I can as it so happens, so I'm gonna talk to you through the mask. And hopefully this has done its work, and although I know you're a little way away over there, I'm gonna hope to show you that this is gonna just scoop off beautifully. So let's give it a go. Look at that, beautiful, eh? Can you see that? And if you get stubborn areas, it is a bit here, I know you won't be able to see that, but just go like that with it. And as I go down the shaft, I'll call it, just go round like this. As I say, you wouldn't do this if it was a fine antique or something like that, because it's quite an aggressive way, but it's absolutely fine for what I'm trying to achieve here. So when you're doing curves, do use it this way rather than this way. It's far more effective and quicker. The paint is now stripped off and I'm ready to age them. So what I've been thinking about is how are oars used? Well, it's obvious they're used for rowing, so they'll get some wear that way, but how they carried to the boat, and how they stored and those sort of things, to get some idea of the sort of the wear that they would actually have, so that it's not unrealistic. So I imagine that you know, that got a pair of oars, they've just come out of the boat shed or wherever, and some young person is taking them to the boat, and what do they do? They'll drag them along, won't they? I'm sorry if there's machinery in the background. I don't know if it's coming through or not, but I hope it's not disturbing the sound too much. So, I imagine that people would do that for them, and then they'll fall over, won't they? And yeah, we're ready to go now, and they get bruised and dented and all those sort of things. Well, I'm not going to stand here dropping them for half an hour to give tens of years wear, so I'll probably do that some other way, but I'll just get them nicely sort of worn on the edges here, as they might happen. Quite good having the stones. This is how I'm going to speed up that wear process. Good old rusty chain. Gives her random indentations and marks and those sort of things. So here we go. It's quite noisy, so you might want to turn down your sound. I love doing this. It's great. Anybody annoyed you during the day? You know. Try all different angles so they don't fall the same. So I'll do that on all of them. I'm wondering, I haven't decided yet, that a lot of oars actually have a collet over there that sit in the row locks. Now this hasn't got them, so I don't know if to wear a groove there as if it was, you know, sat in the row locks or not. I'll have a think about how to do that, whether or not it's really necessary or not. But I'll continue with the chain, because that's looking quite good. And the good thing is that when you put the diluted black on there, the black tends to sit in the the indentation more, and it really gives that that patina that we're looking for on these. Just by the way, of course I stand for recycling of products and that, and we've used new oars here. Well, that's mainly because my friend couldn't actually get some old ones that were already well used, so he picked these ones up relatively cheaply, and I'm more than happy to do them for him. So that's the reason we're using new oars in this case, and of course it's added an extra process of stripping that varnish off, which incidentally, probably if you're not used to doing it, you've probably got to allow a couple of hours to do it properly, which might seem like a fairly long time, but it is quite a you know, there's a lot to do when you're stripping varnish. So I've done the knocks and the bangs and the cracks. I've put a couple of cracks in the end here and a couple of notches and that, and I've done that bit where it's I've narrowed it as if it was in the rollock. I don't know if it's rollock or rowlock, but I always knew it as rollocks, but that might be bollocks. And I've taken all the edges off here, all those sort of the things that make it new. And at this stage, I don't know if I've succeeded really in aging them too much to make them look genuine. So it's going to be the black wash on it now, and see if that does the trick. So I finished the first one, and here it is. So I've used another technique that I haven't spoken about to age it, because I wanted to get a little bit more colour into it. So there's the sort of the pine there. I'm looking weird because I'm looking into my screen to see where I'm pointing. That's why I'm looking like this. Yeah, and I wanted a little bit more colour down here. So what I've actually done is I've used a combination of an electric paint stripper and a blowtorch. So I've actually given the wood here a bit of a suntan, and in certain parts it's slightly burnt it, but that's all right. It just adds to the overall effect of it. So with the second one, I will give you a bit of a demonstration. I'll do my best to, because I've only got this camera fixed on a tripod, and I don't really have the means of, because it's just me, of doing it and actually having a camera on it, you know, following me, if you see what I mean. If that makes any sense. But yeah, so we'll do this one and see if I can get it looking something like this one. Fingers crossed. Now, what I haven't mentioned so much about is the sanding that I've done as I've been going along, and it's very much sort of, would you say, an arbitrary thing of how much sanding you do on it, but I've just taken the new edges off it. Very difficult to sort of really you know, to point out to exactly what I've done, but I've got a sander on these edges and I've ran it along and just, you know, taken that manufactured new shape off it, and you know, I've got different angles on the edges and those sort of things. And then I've sanded this part here just by hand with a very coarse sandpaper, actually a 40 grit, because I want most of the black of my wash to seep in here and sit there and and just, well, this is the bit that goes in the water, so I imagine this is the bit that gets the dirtiest and sort of the most worn. So roughed up, bring the grain up, make it coarse, so this wash will seep in. Now, there's no secret to this. It's about 1 part paint to 5 parts water. It's as arbitrary as that. I say that because it could be a bit more, it could be a bit less. You're better to go actually probably with more than less, because if it's too weak, it will just make it a little bit grey and not make it as black as you want it. So it's like water with a bit of black in there, basically. It's nothing like paint. Oh look, I've just splashed it there, you can see. And then you just brush it on. Get it to seep. It will drip. Let it drip. You know, if the surface isn't that you're working on hasn't got some on there by the time you've finished, then you haven't been doing it properly, because you've just got to sort of soak it in it. And just really get it in. Just see it running off there. You can just brush it back up and put it in. Now immediately what I'm seeing with this one is, I don't know if you can see on that edge there, but it's very dark there, but there's not much. It's sort of running off there, whereas the other one had more black. But they don't have to be the same, of course. Get it washed in all the nooks and crannies and splits that I've created. Random strokes, you don't want it to, to dry with brush strokes in there. Tends to just pool anyway. You can't overbrush this. It's impossible, unlike proper paint. But you can just go in, keep stabbing in the areas. I got it done with 1 coat last time. On that one, I'm pointing over there because that's where the finished one is. But it might be that you need to let it dry, which you can do with a hairdryer if you want to speed up the process, and rough up another area if it's not quite as dark as you want it to be, and then just go over this again. Well, I think you get the gist of that. It's a little bit more tricky up here because there's not a really good flat surface for it to sit on, and it just wants to roll off, so you just have to work at that a little bit more to get it to stay on there, feeding it in. If you can't get it to stay, let it dry, rough it up again, put a bit more on. With this ore, the black wash hasn't really filled the indentations, so it left them quite pale. So what I've done is I've just grabbed some neat paint, if there is such an expression, and I've literally just painted in those areas. You can see it better here with all the splodges, and up here as well. So then I'm just getting a bit of 180 grit paper and then just sanding back the over paint, so it just leaves the dark indentation. I didn't have to do that on the other one. I don't know what the difference is, or why it's different wood, I suppose, with different grain, I suppose, different absorbency. So, and as you can see there, or hopefully you can see there, that it's good. It all adds to the effect. What I don't sand off just adds to the patina. And then I'll do that side over there. This is another noisy part for me to show you. Now I think you can just about see the difference here, but using the heat gun, which is more controllable than using the blowtorch. Oh, here's Lily the cat. That's it, she's off. You can see that this area here is slightly darker than this area here, and it's this nice sort of well, not mottled, but different colours of the wood there. And it's, as I say, it's been given a bit of a suntan in a way. So I just get the heat gun on high setting, and I just scorch the wood slightly. And if you want a darker area, just leave it on that hatch for a bit longer. Let's darken this bit here. Yeah, you can just see that going there. And if you do it too much, you don't have to worry, because you can just get the sandpaper and just sand it off. I'm just looking in the screen to see what you can see. Perhaps not as clear to you as it is to me here, because it's subtle, but it makes all the difference in the flesh. Yes, Lily. I'll just show you that there, that you might think, oh, it looks a bit burnt. But you can just take it down, just that shade, and it ends up just looking like some patina in the wood as opposed to a burnt mark. Yes, Lily. I have to walk her in now into the house, otherwise she just stays here going meow. Yes, I'll take you in. So I'm at the stage that I finished using the gun on it, the paint stripper gun. I must stop doing this. I just love the feel of wood, and it's a habit of just smoothing wood when I talk. But anyway, so I mustn't do that because it must be annoying to watch. Anyway, so I've finished doing that, and over this area I've used the blowtorch. Now I know I haven't showed you that because there's not really much to show, other than I'm passing the torch over it quite fast. It does burn in certain places, which is fine. There's an example there. Just adds to it. But that's just a question of, if you're trying it yourself, is to just go gently with it and see what you can achieve. It's a bit pale up here for me, and it needs darkening down slightly, but I can't do it with that torch because it, as I say, it burns too readily. So I'm using some Jacobean wax up here, some furniture wax, which I'm just putting on and rubbing it in. Now, arguably, you might say, if I'm using a darkened wax on it, that did I need to burn it or darken it that way? Yeah, maybe not. You don't know. All I say is, all you're doing is building, you know, this patina of age on it. So although you could probably miss out the burning process and it look equally as good, to me it just all forms part of these layers of aging. So yeah, just putting the wax on, just giving it a rub in. Also, the good thing about the wax is it does seal the wood and give a slight sheen to it, which just, when you're putting them inside, just, you know, just finishes them and makes them look that little bit nicer. Also, the wax, you know, is going into the little indentations and the crevices, and again is adding more to that patina as well. So there's not much to it. You can see how rough I'm just putting it on there. Really rub it in places. You can't really go wrong with it. It's a marvellous stuff, these waxes for aging things, getting a bit of colour in there. You see, it's not really making it as black as the wax looks, but if you put it on thinner, the lighter it is, the more you rub it in, it darkens those areas, so it really does add to it. It dries quickly, so you can polish it off and see what you've got. If you don't like what you've done, then you can just get a bit of fine sandpaper, you know, a 180 or a 240, and just take it off again. Or even better than that, get a bit of terps and take it off. But you have to be careful that you're not removing too much of the black wash. Because I imagine that these parts here are going to be used over the years, and hands are going to be grasping it and wearing at it, so I imagine that they're going to be quite smooth, and also probably not going to be as dark as the rest of it. So I'm just using, this is a very small detail, and really, well, I sigh, because it's just one of the sort of details I go into that probably makes no difference whatsoever. But because I don't want it so dark, I'm just using a bit of clear wax on it. But that's only because I've got the luxury of having the clear wax as well. Yeah, doesn't really make a great deal of difference either way. But I am going to put plenty on here and get it quite a lustre on it, because as I say, I think these would be shiny here because of, you know, the oils in the hand over the years, creating that sort of slightly different finish to the part that's been in the water. But no one will notice. Here they are in their finished state. Wax is on. and polished off. You'll see there's a slight sheen on them now, which is quite nice given that they're going into a brand new house. I've decided that if you really want to get the authentic aged patina, that the burning is a worthwhile thing to do. The wax in itself, as good as it is, wouldn't offer that level of aging that I wanted anyway. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful and interesting. I'm sorry that everything's round the wrong way. You'll see, oh, you're writing over there also. I didn't realise that using the front camera, the selfie camera on my phone, inverts everything. So I'm sorry about that. I've tried to look into how I can change that, but I haven't succeeded. But it hasn't detracted from the process at all, I'm sure. So thanks very much.
Rick has left the workshop.